All right. I am joining on here a couple of minutes early because I'm trying to use a dual screen tonight and trying to set up lighting. So let's full size this baby. Hello to all of you that are already on. I love the keener wieners that are already in the room. I'm just typing to you all. Can you see me and hear me? And if you could let me know, that would be amazing. Yes, yes, yes. Yay. Awesome. Okay, cool. All right, we have a couple of minutes until it is actually 7:30. So like I said, I am playing around with some new lighting tonight. You know, it's always a good idea to do this when you're going live. I did play around on this on my own here. Open up this chat sidebar. Fantastic. So let me know where you guys are all from while we're waiting for everybody else to come on in. We have hundreds of you joining us tonight. Orangeville, Peterborough, Sharon, New Lowell, Florida, Kentucky, Bradford, Burlington, Montreal, Brampton. Awesome. Another Florida. Oh, it's probably so much warmer there than it is here. Fenland Falls, BC, Hamilton, Shelburne, Halifax, Ontario, New York, Aurora, Newmarket. Amazing. Coming in from all over. Hormones are a hot, hot topic. All right. So just to clarify, as you are coming on in, good old Sutton West. You might be the closest. Those of you that are coming in, just to make sure that my sound is good, you can see me, and I'm working at the lighting as best I can here. If you follow me on social media, you've seen the behind the scenes glimpse into my office and recording area that is actually in our master bedroom. And sometimes at night, the lighting is a bit tricky. So I've rigged up a new system. Everyone's saying that it's good. Awesome. So good. All right, well, we are going to be spending probably the next 75 minutes together. From LA, oh, nice, welcome, awesome. All right, you guys are coming in from all over. This is fantastic. So let me introduce myself to you all, and then I will go through a little bit of general housekeeping and then talk to you about how we're going to flow through tonight's webinar. I will tell you that there were so many questions that came through. I am going to do my very best to try to get through to as many of them as I can. Now, a lot of the content that I'm going to be covering as I go through the top 5 or 6 issues that women who tend to come into my programs are dealing with in terms of their hormones, their thyroid, their blood sugar, their weight, different issues like that. I think I'm going to be answering some of the questions in that period of time. So I'll be able to distill it down, but there was almost 100 different questions that came in, and I have pulled it down to about 25, and I am going to do my very best to try to get through as many as I can. So right out of the gates, I just want to let you know that obviously we are connecting through technology, which is wonderful, but also sometimes unpredictable. So a couple of things to help you navigate if we end up with any tech issues. First thing is, do not panic. We are recording this. All of you who have registered, whether you're on with us live now or you're listening to this later, you obviously know this already, you get the recording. And for whatever universal reason, even if there's tech issues live, there is never tech issues with the recording, so everything is smooth. If for some reason I disappear off the screen, don't panic, stay in the room. I'll sign myself back in. If all of a sudden something happens on your end, try to refresh your screen first. If not, go back out and then come back in. Other couple of things are have a notebook and pen nearby, have some hydration. So I am double fisted tonight. I've got my water and I have got my tea. And then the other thing is that I do have a family. They are home somewhere downstairs. People are coming in and out, and I have a dog. So if you hear barking, it's not in your head, it's in my house. If you see me looking like this for a period of time or going like that, it's because a child has decided to come in my room. So just to let you know, I am no different than a lot of you that are coming on tonight. And this is some of the stuff that we're going to go through is really, I want to teach you how to simplify so much of what you're trying to do. I think we live in this day and age now of Instagram and Facebook and media, and and that, you know, we're comparing ourselves to these pictures, these images that we see and that we put out there. And you know, I know when you snap onto my page, you're seeing all of the positive stuff and you're seeing the tips and suggestions, but I live a very similar life to the rest of you, which can be chaotic and overwhelming and unpredictable. And that is who you are getting as a leader tonight and as an instructor throughout the Hormone Project, is just me, who I am. I am sitting here in my comfies. I am in my polka dot pajamas and my slippers as I am talking to you all tonight. So this really is about me meeting you where you are at. My whole purpose and mission in teaching masterclasses like this and in running any of my programs is I want to open up the bigger conversation for us as women to be able to understand and to feel heard and to feel empowered in our bodies, to know that we are not destined to be suffering, whether it's suffering from inflammation and digestive issues that are contributing to our hormonal problems, whether we're suffering from debilitating menstrual cycles, suffering going through perimenopause and menopause, we're having fertility issues, acne, hair loss, hair growth in places that we're not really interested in. We've got hormonal migraines. Like, that is, we are not destined to be feeling this way and to have to be struggling and going through so many of these issues. And, you know, it breaks my heart when I hear from women, like so many of almost these 100 questions that came in, that were just describing everything that you've been going through and how you've gone from different doctors and practitioners and you feel like you've been dismissed. And you just want to know, you want to understand, what are some of the reference ranges that you need to know when you're looking at your blood work? What are some of the things you need to be asking for? Why does your body feel the way that it feels? And another woman that you know doesn't feel that way. Or what are some of the common symptoms, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily normal in your body. So there are over 50 different known hormones in our bodies, right? Meaning, like, we are discovering and learning new things about our human selves all the time. There's no possible way to go through every single hormone, and you actually don't need to know about every single hormone, but there are a couple key levers that when they are out of balance, when they are being pulled, whatever stressor it is that's throwing them off kilter, everything else will start to feel like it's unraveling. And so those are the ones that I have chosen to go through with you tonight. But before we actually get into like the meat of that, I want to give you a little bit of background as to why this program exists and why I do what it is that I do. A lot of people ask me, you know, how do I know if your program is for me? How do I know if your teachings are for me? And I'll tell you right out of the gates. My program's not for you. I'm probably not for you if you're not interested in the why. So I'm not the practitioner that is just going to hand you over a workbook, that is just going to slide a meal plan across the table to you and just say, now go, do this. That to me is what-based solution as opposed to why. I need you to understand why it's important for you to add certain things into your lifestyle, why it's important for you to say no to certain things and to eliminate, why it's important to choose from this company versus this company, why it's important to be advocating for yourself and for your daughters, what you need to know about supporting the other women in your life and the men and the boys in your life as well too, because a lot of the different issues that are happening in terms of estrogen toxicity and thyroid issues and gut imbalances, they aren't strictly happening to women. They're also happening to men and to our sons and to young boys as well too. So much of what I'm teaching, yes, we're focusing on the female endocrine system, but there is a lot of things I'm going to be teaching and talking about that you can just look at. Like, if you're a human being, you should be implementing some of these tips and these steps. So before I go any further, because I do have some notes, I don't teach PowerPoint presentations like traditional webinars. I find them stone cold boring. I'm going to have a really juicy conversation with you. But before I get going, I'll let you know how I flow. There's going to be a huge Q&A period. We're going to do at least a half an hour of Q&A, but I want to be able to get through some of the meat and the juice in the beginning. So are you guys all cool with that? Any like pressing questions or any type of tech question that you want to get out there before I start to go? Are you excited? Yes. Awesome. Yay. Okay. That was the right answer. You already got the first question right. All right. So, oh man, everyone always asks, oh, I love how excited you all are. This is amazing. What I love as well too is there's a lot of you who are on here who have actually already done the hormone project before, who have actually been with me for years. There's some women that are on the masterclass tonight who I started personal training 20 years ago when I was 19 and really just starting to kind of find my way in this industry. So it's so fantastic that so many have stayed with me. And I really honestly, I have the best community of women. And so I'm so honored that you are all choosing to take this time with me tonight. Okay, so one of the big questions that came in was, why the hormone project? Like, what is the birthplace of this program? And for me, it started, like I said, 20 years ago, personal training. I was working with women in the gym, and then I owned my own studio, and it was all women that were coming in there. We had one male member. And I had a nutrition practice and I was teaching workshops, and I started to discover the same pattern, whether women were coming into the gym to work out, to try to lose weight, or into the yoga studio to de-stress and find some time for themselves, or they were looking for, what supplements do I take? And can you help me put a meal plan together? That all of these struggles were ultimately leading back to a root cause within their hormones. And so I'll give you a synopsis of the most common things I was seeing in my practice, and hold on to your pants because it's a pretty lengthy list. Weight gain was a huge one, and sometimes not even, weight gain, but the inability to break the plateau of where they were. So sometimes they've been holding on to weight for X amount of period of time. They weren't gaining any more weight, but no matter what they were doing, they couldn't lose the stubborn pounds. No energy. Sleep was a huge issue, either not being able to fall asleep, or they could fall asleep because they were exhausted from the day, but they weren't able to stay asleep. And most of the women that come into my practice, they're waking up between 1 and 4 in the morning and they cannot get back to sleep. A lot of inflammation. And I know we oftentimes think of inflammation in regards to like joint pain, swelling, but inflammation in the gut, inflammation in the skin, inflammation, even in terms of things like having candida and yeast, and having things like dandruff, eczema, psoriasis. Those are all sources of inflammation. Anything that's throwing your body out of balance is a source of inflammation. Discovering what the root cause is and what's actually triggering that inflammation, that's something different. Acne is another big one that women come into my practice for. I've shared very vulnerably and candidly about the struggles that I had with acne when I did come off the pill and after the birth of my son, the difference in my body carrying a baby girl versus carrying a baby boy, and then headaches. So whether it's headaches leading into your period or whether these headaches become migraines, bloating and constipation and gas, adrenal and thyroid issues. So this, comes back into that whole thing of not being able to sleep, being exhausted, but feeling wired, and not being able to drop the weight, cold all the time, having that constipation. That all falls under that adrenal thyroid umbrella. Hair loss. A lot of hair loss on the head, thinning of eyebrows, but growing hair on their lips, on their chin, around their nipples, even like pubic hair growing further down the legs, getting more deciduous, getting, thicker and fuller as time goes on, heavy, painful periods, like debilitating periods, coming like the whole period coming in a couple of days and then leaving, or having a really long period where there's a lot of clotting, those types of things happening. Awful PMS. So feeling like those days or that week leading into the cycle, really heavy, tender breast, mood swings galore, anxiety and depression, elevated issues with losing their patience, right? So just snapping at their loved ones. It's not often that we're snapping at our coworkers, the people that we're meeting out and about. It's the people that ultimately we love and care about the most. They're the ones that get that crappy part of us that when we're just feeling at our lowest and we're already overwhelmed and pulled, unfortunately, they're the ones who end up getting it. Brain fog. This is a massive one as well, too. Like just that cog fog. And like I said, the memory issues, fibroids and cysts and endometrial changes in the actual lining of the uterus, polycystic ovarian syndrome, insulin resistance, really suffering during perimenopause and menopause with hot flashes, mood swings, weight gain, the sleep issues, zero sex drive, and constantly feeling overwhelmed. And this was something, like I said, it was happening with almost all of the women in my practice. And when I sat back and I really started to take a look at, why in the world is this happening? And I began to have different conversations with the youngest women in my programs, or who were personal training with me and coming into the studio, who didn't yet have children or who were having trouble conceiving or just had babies, to women that were in their 60s and 70s. None of them knew anything really about their menstrual cycle. They didn't understand that there was different phases within each cycle, that your period is not actually your menstrual cycle. Your period, your bleed, is just one part of a 4-phase cycle that happens. They didn't understand what they should be asking their doctor for in terms of blood work. They never asked for a paper copy of their blood work. So when the doctor said you're fine, they didn't have anything to reference and look at, and they just took their doctor's word, and oftentimes ended up suffering for a very long time. Oftentimes being medicated, put on the birth control pill, being put on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. And I just remember viscerally on a couple of occasions just being like, this is bullshit. This is insanity. How is it? Like, it should not be where there's only certain people that are privy to this information. Why aren't we teaching this to women when they are young girls? In my opinion, I feel this education should start to happen in grade 5 when you are 10 years old and you're starting to feel these experiences and changes and shifts in your body. Why is it this like hush hush and we only allow ourselves to know this tiny bit of information? We really need to be exploring so that we know what is normal and what is not. When do we need to reach out and ask for help? And if we're not going to be able to be aligned with a family doctor who's going to be that person that's really going to advocate for us, we have to be that for ourselves. But we can't advocate for what we don't know. And so I noticed that there was this big gap. In 2012, I wrote my first book, The Simplicity Project. And that book really focuses on the fundamentals of, making it not so complicated to be healthy. And I wrote that book. That book is a bestseller. It was fantastic. I then turned the book into a 6-week online course. And we had hundreds of women coming through this. It's been running for almost 6 years now. And through that, the first couple of years, I was like, this is it. This is what everybody needs to know. And they still do. But then it got to the point where people were graduating out of the program and women wanted more. And they needed more information specifically about their hormones. How do I decrease my estrogen, Jen? How do I increase my progesterone? How do I decrease my testosterone? How do I get myself off of, this medication? How do I support my thyroid? I don't want to end up having to take X, Y, and Z. What is it that I can do? And I reached out to my assistant at the time, and it was just her and I on the team. And I said, I think I have to create a hormone program. I'm going to do a pilot program. I'm going to take 10 women for 10 weeks. And every week for 10 weeks, I'm going to teach them something different, but only about their hormones. And I'm going to break it down and distill the information so much that when they come out of these 10 weeks, they're going to feel like they were just back in school about their female body. And that any time now a symptom shows up, a sensation, that something goes on, they're going to have this complete toolbox so that they will know what they need to do for their body moving forward. And so we did it. We put that program out, and like, I have goosebumps even thinking about it. It was the game changer. It was the game changer. And now I'm going into the 8th round. And now I take 25 women each round. And I'm telling you, like, if you've been following along, we aren't told. And in fact, I believe that we are convinced otherwise, that it's not possible to heal some of these things. That you're a woman, you have a period, you're going to go through menopause, you're going to end up putting some weight on around your waist, your skin is going to change as you age, you're naturally just going to lose your hair, you're going to end up having cramps and really bad PMS around that period, you're going to have cellulite, eventually you're going to struggle with your weight because you're getting older and your metabolism is slowing down, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm telling you, it's all BS. And I'm also telling you that you can shift these things that I'm talking about in as little as 1 to 3 cycles. Now, for women who no longer menstruate, they think, well, then I'm out. Like, I don't have cycles. Yes, you do. As a woman, you actually have cycles for your entire life. Just because you no longer bleed does not mean that you don't have cycles. You don't have a menstrual cycle. You don't have a uterine lining that is shedding anymore, but you still have these very cyclical phases that are happening every month on a continuum in your body. And in the Hormone Project, and in fact, if you've never, I have a free cycle syncing ebook on my website at jenpike.com. And I talk a lot about this and how with women who, whether they have gone through menopause and don't have a cycle anymore, they had a radical hysterectomy and were put into early menopause, they had premature ovarian failure, or they have amenorrhea where they do not have a period, that there are different approaches, whether it's seed cycling or following the lunar approach of the moon, that can help to bring things back into balance for your body. And so, it's what happened. Teaching all of this information, all of this content, it really allowed me to, I think, bridge this gap of what we needed to know as women. And the difference was in that Simplicity Project, I wasn't able to do the one-on-one because I had hundreds of women in the program. And that's where the Hormone Project was so different, is I could do private consultations and tailor it and be that level of support, and not just a practitioner, but a friend to these women who really needed to feel heard and understood and have things explained to them. And that's what I think that we're looking for, is we want someone to break it down and explain it to us. So tonight, what I want to focus on is I want to go deeper into the 5 main areas of concern that women are dealing with. And then I'll take you through what the actual course outline is. And then we're going to move into that really big Q&A session. Sound good? I have to get back to work. I can't wait to listen to this tonight after the babies are tucked into bed. No problem. Okay, so here we go. All right, so the first thing that we focus on and that women are dealing with, and I'm going to talk specific to my actual practice of what it is that these women are going on with. Yes, so Kim McDonald, there is the seed cycling is on my website. So if you go on there, I think it's under resources or under free, there's a seed cycling ebook. Okay. So the first area we're going to talk about is blood sugar and the liver, and why these are so vital, and really why this should be the base of what it is you're starting to work on. So the foundation of our health is always lying in the health and integrity of our gut and our digestive system, hands down. And we're going to get to that part. But what we're skipping as women is we're jumping straight ahead to just taking a probiotic, to, working on having a meal plan that we're following, on cutting out carbohydrates, on following, very restrictive protocols and plans, without first looking at our body as a whole and understanding where you're at right now. And more importantly than where you're at right now, how did you get to now? So what has been going on in all of those years leading up to how you're feeling now? How was your health as a young girl? How old were you when you got your menstrual cycle? What was that experience like for you? Did you even have an opportunity to get into a regular rhythm with your body, or were you put on the birth control pill right out of the gates? Because if you were, every single time, like this is the other thing, when you take the birth control pill, your pituitary gland is shut down. You actually do not ovulate. So for all the time that you're on the birth control pill, and I was on it for 7 years, okay, for that whole time, your ovaries are not releasing an egg. Your pituitary gland in your brain is not signaling throughout that body that ovulation has to occur. And so there is this massive level of suppression. Now, the other thing is that as a young girl, if you were put on the birth control pill for a lengthy period of time, the pill acts in our system very similarly to an antibiotic in terms of its impact on the lining of the gut. So when women come off of the pill, typically within about 3 to 6 months of coming off, post-birth control pill syndrome sets in, where the skin goes crazy, mood can be all over the place, weight can be an issue, menstrual cycle can be irregular, different signs and symptoms. And it's because in those critical years when we were teens, right, you have to remember it takes a good 8 to 10 years for our female bodies to fully mature. So that prepubescent time when our hips are starting to widen, we're getting pubic hair, our breast tissue is starting to change, that is that onset. Then the menstrual cycle comes on. Once the menstrual cycle comes on, there are still years beyond that that our body has to get into this rhythm. And so if that rhythm is interrupted midway or early, that is suppressed into our bodies for many, many years to come. It's why so many of us that were on the pill dealt with anxiety and dealt with depression and different, mental health issues as well too. It robs us of our minerals and so many of our vitamins and our nutrients. And so when we go to come off of it, the body is like, oh my gosh, now I got to kind of catch up and meet myself where I was at to reestablish. And what's really fascinating is that, it's this 8 to 10 year period prepubescent. Well, menopause, perimenopause leading into menopause is an 8 to 10 year period of time as well. So our bodies as females are really bookended, right? So we've got this 8 to 10 year period in the beginning as our bodies are preparing to go from being a young girl into being a woman and having that reproductive system functioning in a very different way. And then as our body is moving through that period of time where eventually all of us will get to a point where our ovaries are going to slow down their production because we're moving beyond our childbearing years. And that unfortunately isn't just an age or a date that we get to choose because we're like, I'm done now. Let's just move along. It happens based on the chemistry in your body and based on your health and your own physiology. But when that happens, it's not like you go to bed one night and you're, totally fertile and everything is functioning as is. And then you wake up the next day and boom, you're in menopause. There is a process. There is an undoing of all the decades that you are going through these cycles. So it's really cool when you start to look at the female anatomy and, like I said, physiology that's happening behind the scenes. And we have to remember that our hormones, they're chemicals. They're chemical messengers. So when people are saying, let's balance your hormones, or I think my hormones are out of balance, what it means is our chemistry needs to be rebalanced. Our chemistry is out of balance. And there's many different players within this. So with blood sugar, that's insulin. Insulin is one of our main hormones. And if insulin is out of whack and insulin's not balanced, you will tend to feel lightheaded, nauseous, dizzy, cranky, like the term hangry, right? Which is like hungry, angry. You need to eat something now or else. That's really indicative of what's going on with your blood sugar. Okay, one question here. Does the copper IUD do the same as the pill to the menstrual cycle? So the copper IUD does not. And there's two different things. So there's the Mirena IUD, which has synthetic hormones. There's the copper IUD, which doesn't have synthetic hormones. So the copper IUD does not prevent your ovulation. It changes the pH of your cervical fluid and creates like a mucus that covers the bottom of the cervix so that when sperm enter into that vaginal area, it tries to prevent them from penetrating and getting on up. So you don't have the chemical hormones, but you still have a foreign object inside the cervix and the uterine lining, which can get embedded and get stuck. It can cause painful intercourse. And in some women who are susceptible, it can cause copper toxicity, which can impact the thyroid. Okay, so let's get back to what we're talking about in terms of the blood sugar and the insulin. So if you are constantly looking to stimulants, like you're always looking for the coffee, you're looking for something sugary, you just need to have that little something sweet. That's a pretty solid indication that something is out of balance with your blood sugar. If you get headaches often, if you'll end up consuming more of the things that are going to give you that quick pickup, like the more processed carbohydrate-based choices, and like I said, extra caffeine, lattes, those types of things. But really what your body is asking for in those times is protein, fat, and fiber. It is looking to be satiated. The whole idea, and I mean, my gosh, like I used to teach this way back when because it's what we were told, eat every 2 hours. I used to make meal plans way back when that was like breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack. And there's still some practitioners who prescribe to this method. And, listen, there's 7 billion people on the planet. There really should be 7 billion different approaches to how we eat. But that being said, if you have a lot of blood sugar instability issues and you are that person that feels like you can't go more than a couple hours without eating, that's a really strong indication that we need to start to do some grounding work on you right there and look at not only what are you eating, but how well are you metabolizing this and breaking it down. What else is going on from a stress perspective? Like, are you a fast burner or a slow burner? I am a fast burner. So for my body, I need to have a little bit more in terms of like grounding root vegetables for my carbohydrates and more fat and moderate protein, as opposed to somebody who might do well. Like, I could never just take carbohydrates out of my diet. Like a keto approach, that does not work for my system. I do not feel well. I would feel more anxious. And I've tested all of these different dietary plans on myself. This is how you have to, when you're working with a practitioner, it's trying to figure out like what really serves and works for me, not based on just because I want to lose weight. And this is the problem, is that we always look at that as being the prong. I want to lose weight, so I'm going to pull this out, and we just start to try to manipulate numbers. We manipulate our macros, we completely reduce food groups, we overconsume too many of other ones, and then we end up getting very little results. Or if we do get results, they don't last long, because as soon as you go back to eating a regular diet, you put the weight back on, and usually more so. So save your energy, stop trying to take the shortcut, and actually begin to learn for your body, for your chemistry, what works really well with you, with your lifestyle, with your schedule, your routine, and your current state. So that's why looking at, your blood work, looking at any additional testing. So if you get like stool sampling done or Dutch hormone testing, all of that, that's data. That is information from your body that when we line this up with the way you describe how you're feeling, it just illuminates the whole thing. I always say to people, for me, it's so exciting when I get to look at the diagnostics, because I look at every client. I literally have it's like I put it up on my wall, and I'm able to stand back and take like this 360 view along with their health history and the timeline of everything that's been going on, and then start to connect the dots. And the conversation is the part that I love the most when I get to work with people on this, because black and white information, so filling out a form, blood work, that's black and white information. It tells a little bit, but what ends up happening in the conversations, the things that you don't realize, it's usually, I said to one of the women tonight who I was doing a consult with, and a couple of times throughout, she said, "Oh, I don't know if this is important, but this happened. Oh, I don't know if this is important, but this happened." And I said to her, I'm gonna tell you one of the secrets of my practice is that all the things you think don't matter are usually the things that matter the most. Because it's all those things that we just think, oh, well, that was, years ago. That couldn't possibly matter. Or that was so insignificant. Or I got past that. I got through that. It's all those little pieces that are building up this story that is unfolding behind the scenes that are actually producing the symptoms that you have today. So the other part of that, and so I'm going to talk about liver, and then I'm going to talk about, so how I've written this out is like, I'm going to give you the things that we're going to talk about, like the issues, the problems, and then kind of like the help, the solutions for it. Okay. So the liver, this is like my favorite organ. So the liver has over 500 daily functions. Okay. So right now to date, based on the latest studies, 560 daily functions is what it's at. And there are actually, when I talk to people about detoxification, they think that detox is just either like one phase or two phases. And there's actually 4 phases of detoxification. And the liver is at the root of all of this. So when we talk about 4 phases of detox, you can't just go to the health food store and buy a detox kit or do a juice cleanse or whatever type of fad thing it is, and then think, oh, well, I'm cleansing and detoxing my liver, right? Even in the hormone project, we go through the first protocol we do is a liver supportive and cleansing protocol. We're only tapping into the first few phases of detox. It's when we get to the third protocol, which is the gut healing, where we fully bring all 4 phases of detoxification together. And so in those 4 phases, the first phase is it's actually like phase 0. And so this is where you want to be supporting your liver on a daily basis. How do you do that? You decrease your stimulants, you decrease the chemicals and the processed foods that you're bringing into your body. You support it by getting in lots of good quality hydration. There's different warm drinks, like Dandy Blend is something I talk about often. Dandelion is very supportive for the liver. Milk thistle tea, very supportive for the liver. Stinging nettle, very supportive for the liver. And then your greens, like copious amounts of greens and vegetables and bitters, those types of things are all going to be very cooling and calming to the liver. Oftentimes in women, we have hot livers, right? Excess estrogen. We're just like, building all of that heat within our body. And so that heat will come out in anger, frustration, inflammation, weight gain, puffiness, bloating, acne, rosacea, eczema, those types of things. So we can start to calm down what's happening on that liver level. You start to see this calming and cooling down of the system overall. So that phase 0, that's really where our liver, we're helping to support it being able to identify the toxins that are coming in. Because everything we drink, we eat, we breathe, we take supplement-wise has to be filtered through that liver. And women, this is really important to understand because your estrogen is filtered and detoxified and processed through your liver. So if your liver is overburdened, if your liver is stagnant, if your liver is, irritated and too hot, that is going to impact how well you are able to actually detox and move those excess chemical forms of estrogen out of your body. Now, phase 1, that is like the first line of defense. And so there are certain enzymes that help to neutralize toxins in your body because there are some toxins that do pose a threat to our system. And if we're not regularly neutralizing them and buffering them and getting them out and they stay in, they're going to start to wreak havoc. There's been a lot of talk over the last few years about the MTHFR gene, about the role that genetics play in our bodies and in our health overall. And while this is epigenetic information, meaning that, your genes don't determine your destiny and your health. So even if you've had a family history where there's lots of people who have certain diseases or illnesses or issues that have arose, you might be more vulnerable to it, but it doesn't mean that it's a sentence for you and your health and your body. What it means is that you need to be more aware and shift your lifestyle. So epigenetics, the word epi means upon, and then genetics, upon genetics. So the lifestyle we live is what impacts upon our genetics. So we have the ability to be turning these cells on or off in a negative or not so negative way. Okay, so sometimes this can be that, conjugation, that MTHFR, and this can be oftentimes like there's genetic testing you can get done. The Dutch, which is a urinary hormone test that we use within the Hormone Project, it'll show some of what's going on in terms of what's your methylation activity like? Like, are you a healthy, good methylator? Do you have low methylation? And sometimes it can be as simple as adding things in like a good quality sublingual B12, getting enough therapeutic magnesium in, adding in a good quality B6 or SAMe, which is actually SAMe. So those types of things, oftentimes there's deficiencies, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, and that's why things aren't conjugating properly. Sometimes it's a little bit more than that, but generally speaking, if we can get your lifestyle and decrease your stress, get you sleeping, get some of your nutrients up, we give your body a better opportunity to do the job that it needs to on a daily basis. This video is available after, yes, it's all being recorded and you are all going to be sent it out. So phase 2 is where, this is where we take the toxins that really pose a risk and we start to do something with them. So this is this methylation process that I was just talking about. And this is that your body, it like packages it up tidy and is like, okay, you're a little bit dangerous. We're just going to wrap you on up and make sure that you're not going to impact anybody negatively. And then we're just going to send you into phase 3 to help to get you on out, right? So this is where we are looking at like the excretion of the toxins. So ladies, if you aren't pooping on a regular basis, this is a problem. If you aren't pooping, you aren't detoxing. And if you aren't detoxing, then that means that you are retoxing. So every month that your body is producing various hormones, and I'm going to talk about estrogen here for a moment, when you are producing that estrogen, You produce it, you use it. Now the body is like, okay, we're done with this. We need to package it on up, and then we need to move it on out of the system. If you are constipated and you are having issues going to the bathroom, that estrogen then stays in your body. It recirculates and off gases into your system and now starts to wreak havoc, because guess what? The next time that cycle comes around and you are now producing more estrogen, you still have the leftover estrogen. You have new estrogen that's coming in, plus any of the environmental estrogens. So you start to see how this estrogen dominant situation can begin to happen. And so pooping is really critical. It's one of the things that I focus on, the most with the women in the program, is we've got to get your bowels moving. Okay, we've got to get those bowels moving and get you pooping. And this is no different for your children as well too. This is for all of us. We need to be having a poop at least 1, if not 2 to 3 times every single day. Okay. And this is like, there's so many people who, you go to your family doctor. I mean, I can remember when I had my daughter and I went to the pediatrician and he said, they can like not go for 9 days. I was like, she's nursing every 2 hours. Do you know how much she's consuming over 9 days? What do you mean she can not go for 9 days and that's normal? And her little tummy is distended and she's crying. Like, that's ludicrous. And we get told that it's okay if you're only going, every couple of days. It's not. And so that'll contribute to not only that estrogen toxicity, but not being able to lose the weight. Like, you have 28 feet of intestinal tract and 5 to 7 feet of colon. As women, our colon is a little bit longer than men, and that's because of the shape of our hips and pelvis. And we need that longer colon to actually have room for the bowels to still be where they need to be when we are pregnant and carrying a child. That is a lot of freaking room for poop to accumulate in your system. Okay, so, you can do things like some of you are asking about enemas and hydrocolon therapy to help to get things going, but we've got to look at what is actually going on. Why isn't your body allowing the feces to go? Is it a motility issue? Is it something where you need to go and get adjusted and see an osteopath? Like, every nerve innervates your spine, and all of the nerves that are controlling the function and the energy and that life force into the bowels and into the intestinal tract are in your lumbar sacral spine. So if you sit all the time, that is all constricted. If you've had bad falls on your tailbone, right? Like, I'm telling you, for those of you whose children play sports, especially hockey, put arnica into their hockey bag and teach your child. They can't overdose on this. If they fall on their tailbone, any bad fall, you get them to take a 2-pellet dose of that arnica. Our tailbone and the top of our head, these are our rudders for our body and our nervous system. And when there is any subluxation or any impact or trauma, that can show up in those sluggish bowels. Now, sometimes it is because you're, again, deficient in nutrients, and there could be something off in that, which is what we would talk about in a consultation, or it's what you're eating. Like, if you're eating crap, that could be what's bunging you up. If you're not hydrated, right? Like, for every cup of coffee that we have, we need to add an additional cup of water into our body to make sure that we're getting what we actually need. So for your blood sugar and for your liver, some of the key things to think about: protein, fat, and fiber at your meals. Aim for about 25 grams minimum of fiber a day, and the upwards to 40 if you can. Now, this is how smoothies are so wonderful, because you get your hydration, you get your protein, you get your fiber, you get a healthy source of fat. They take no time at all. You can pre-make it the night before. Heck, you can make a pitcher, pour it into a few mason jars, slap that lid on, put it into the fridge. One of the things I will teach you over and over again is that we are not striving for perfection. We are looking at how can we simplify. So is your smoothie the freshest as soon as it comes out of that blender? Absolutely. But if the barrier of you not making that, or thinking you can't have it because it's been sitting there overnight or for 6 hours, and you think that, please stop, just get it into your system. Make it easy. Okay. Oh, and Vanessa, that's awesome. My director, Vanessa, my work wife, my backhand, is posting there. We only have 5 spots left in the hormone project. So Summer, you were asking about it there. She's got the link so you can go in and secure one of those spots while we're talking right now. The other thing is cutting the sugar and the stimulants. Okay. Like, I know everyone's like, don't take my coffee away. It's not that I take it away completely, but if you're drinking coffee as a way to suppress your appetite or because you don't have time for food in the morning, and again, it's a barrier, or you are loaded with toxic estrogen, coffee, not caffeine, coffee is high in estrogen, okay? Marie, if you have histamine issues with making it ahead, then probably not a good idea unless you're just doing a naked shake and everybody is different, but the longer it sits there, it may ferment. That's a trial and error, okay? The next hormone project is in July. So I only run this 3 times a year. Okay, so moving on. I talked about some of the foods as well. So let's go number 2, cortisol, all right? Cortisol gets a bad rap. Listen, cortisol is a hormone that can cause a lot of issues in the body, but cortisol it's an important hormone. It is a healthy hormone when it's in check and balance. You need healthy cortisol so you can get your butt out of bed in the morning, so you can stop snoozing and dragging yourself and get up and actually move into your day. You need healthy cortisol to get through a workout and then have positive, healthy recovery. You need cortisol so that you have resiliency and quick reflexes in life to be able to react and respond when, the path changes. If your stress is super high and your cortisol is jacked all the time, like you're that person where you're just like, I never stop. From the time I wake up until the time I go to bed, I go, go, go. My calendar is jammed. My kid's calendar is jammed. My husband's calendar is jammed. My middle name is busy. You will feel overwhelmed, anxious. Your sleep will be off. You'll feel exhausted but wired, like I talked about in the beginning. Mood swings, cravings, and you're going to feel that increased need for sweets and salt. So one of the key things with our adrenals is when they start to get taxed, you're typically going to crave extra sodium. So your body will look for sweet things to like pick you back up when you're like, okay, like I know we want to have a nap on the desk right now, but we still got to go. That's when you're going to look for the sugar, for the caffeine. But your adrenals in those times of depletion are going to be looking for salty, crunchy, savory. So that's one of the key things to pay attention to. And the other thing is if your cortisol is all over the map, you will not have sex drive. So you have to ask yourself, like, everybody assumes their cortisol is high. You can only stay high for so long, and not because your adrenals give out. That's actually a fallacy. That doesn't happen unless you have Addison's disease, which is rare. What happens is that our life is going at a certain pace and we have stress that's happening, whether it's from our calendar or from illness or from a relationship, finances. I mean, it can come in many different ways. And we can cope for a period of time because we're designed for that. Like your body is built to defend you, and your adrenals will tap in and rescue you. As soon as your brain gets that trigger for stress, your brain has no way of identifying this is real stress, like we're in danger. This is just work stress. This is just she has jam-packed her schedule again. This is we're stuck in traffic stress, or this is happy stress because we're moving to a new house, we're going on a holiday. All your body knows is, holy crap, we are under stress again. Your stress response system is supposed to work like this. Life is good. Stress comes out of nowhere. Body is like, bam, I've got you. Dump the cortisol and the adrenaline and epinephrine into your body, into your system to help you respond, to be sharp, to be focused. Stress is over. Retract. Pull that body on out. Adrenal reserve gets to calm down, brain gets to calm down, reserve gets to build back up, resiliency is now there. We're not meant to be turned on and tapping into the stress system 24/7, but we are. And it actually is 24/7. Electronics in your bedroom, Wi-Fi on in your house at night, your phone next to your head, lights coming in, temperature being too hot, stress, stress, stress. And again, your body cannot distinguish between perceived, imagined, or real. So these things are, sometimes the stress is high, cortisol is high, but sometimes it's low. Most of the women I work with, when we test it in their Dutch testing, they're actually flat-lined. And this is why they can't get up in the morning. This is why they want to have a nap in the afternoon. This is why they have no sex drive. This is why, as much as they love their husband and they can be attracted to him or to their wife, their partner, whomever it is, they're just like, I want to so bad, but like, I have nothing left to give you. I have nothing left to give. So those are some of the things you have to ask yourself. What's my stress like? You know, can I wake up easily in the morning? Is morning okay, but do I drop in the afternoon? Do I have no energy during the day, but come evening, I am like wired and ready to go? So that means that your whole rhythm is flipped. We want to have cortisol should be at its highest point within your first couple hours of waking. So you have something called CAR, which is your cortisol awakening response. A healthy adrenal system and nervous system, that cortisol will be at its elevated point within your first few hours of waking up. It peaks typically around early afternoon, and then it starts to decline, which is typically when people have that afternoon crash, right? Between 1 and 4 p.m. Now remember, I talked about 1 and 4 a.m. people waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to get back to sleep. And then you go 12 hours later, 1 to 4 p.m. when people are crashing and want to go to sleep. This needs to be flipped. We need you to get to stay to sleep between 1 and 4 and to be able to have sustained energy between 1 and 4 p.m. to stay awake into your day. That slow decline of cortisol in the afternoon should stay slow and then have a small petering off into the evening, which when that cortisol is down, this is how we can signal to produce tryptophan and melatonin, our main sleep hormone. If your cortisol is still jacked at night and you are go, 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 it's bright lights, it's noisy, you're, chasing down the clock, trying to get as much done as you can, you're burning the candle at both ends, you've sent that signal to your body that we're under stress. On a hormone level, your body will respond. Insulin will become unstable. You will have cravings at nighttime and want things you normally would not. Cortisol will be jacked up. Melatonin will be suppressed. So when your body is like physically exhausted and you are emotionally exhausted and you go to lie down and sleep and you can't, this is why. Or you fall asleep because you're just done, but you're waking up. This is what's happening behind the scenes. And in some women's bodies, they might have a healthy cortisol production, but they deactivate it into the inactive form of cortisone so fast. So your body is like, oh my gosh, I'm under stress. I need that hormone cortisol. Your adrenals are like, no problem, produce the cortisol. And your body quickly switches over into cortisone. And your system is like, awesome. There was the hormone. There goes the hormone. I have no help. Perfect. And this is happening in the brain. So when people talk about adrenal fatigue, this is actually something called an HPA axis imbalance. HPA is an acronym and it stands for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. This is a relationship in your brain between your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland that talks to your adrenals and your thyroid and your ovaries. So when women have thyroid issues, it has started in your adrenals. And this is important to know because the adrenal issues usually were going on for a decade or longer before the thyroid itself started to show the signs and symptoms. And so this is where as women, we have to stop being martyrs. We have to stop being the fucking doer for everyone and everything all the time. You have to not give two craps about what other people think about you saying no. You have to be okay letting other people down, even your family sometimes. You have to give yourself permission to choose yourself first. And you have got to learn to say no. You need to have a come to terms conversation with you in your calendar and start to let these things go because we're the only one that's suffering. And I will tell you this because I have worked with in the thousands of women now, the vibration in their family and with their children and their spouse goes up when they start to choose themselves. It goes up. It doesn't go down. So I know we have been programmed as women to feel guilty as shit if we choose ourselves, if we miss a game, we miss a practice. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This is crazy. We're the ones that are suffering at the end of the day for this. And we are then teaching our children that it is okay to self-sacrifice for everyone else in your life. We want to lead by example by being the example and the example of goodness. And this isn't about don't get off tonight and go downstairs and be like, screw you and screw you and screw you. I'm coming first from now on. This is, you don't even have to have a conversation about it. You can just subtly start to make these shifts and these changes. And when or if someone asks you, just say, you know what, I had to start to choose me. Because think about it this way. If you were watching your child give themselves to someone or something else to the point of their own detriment, that they were exhausted, their mood wasn't good, they weren't making good, healthy food choices, that they were just not the child that you once knew. Would you be like, keep giving her, Keep going. Like, don't stop. Like, God forbid you miss something. No freaking way. You would sit down with them and say, you need to take care of yourself. You get one little body. It is okay if you can't make this, project on time, or this event, or that. Like, we have to stop, because this generation of children, the level of anxiety, the level of pressure is unbelievable. And so we have to start to take that load off of ourselves to show them that it's okay. A conversation that we have had with our kids often, and like, trust me, I don't get this right all the time either. Like, by no stretch of means am I a perfect mom, and do we have a perfect household at all. But we have really open conversations with our kids, because we made a conscious choice as parents that they get one activity each per season. We own a kitchen table for a reason. We want to have family meals. We want to be able to connect. And if that means that we are in and out of different places all the time, when does that ever happen? And, that decreases the load and stress off of everyone. So those are some things to think about for your cortisol and cortisone. The other thing is get to bed earlier. So ideally 10 to 10:30 would be wonderful, but even if you can back it up from 15 minutes to when you go to bed right now, sleep in darkness and coolness. Decrease your Wi-Fi. So set it on a timer so it shuts off at a certain time at night. Turn your phone on airplane mode. Get an old school alarm clock. Try to wake up to natural light in the morning and movement. If you don't have the energy, or it's not possible to actually exercise or work out in the morning, just move your body. Do a couple of down dogs. Do a little bit of stretching in your bed before you get up. Walk quickly to the kitchen. Like, just do something to move your body. Don't eat super close to when you go to bed. Sleep is not meant for digesting. You will keep everything elevated, including your insulin. And this is a big trip up for putting on weight pretty quickly. And then possibly looking at some adaptogens. So holy basil, it's also, sold as like Tulsi tea, is wonderful to have in the evening to help to just down regulate your system. Ashwagandha is another one. And beyond that, with adaptogens, I have just found, like, I'm really hesitant to tell people all these things, because you end up with this list to go and purchase, but then you don't even understand why you're taking it and what it's doing. And there's a lot of things you can do for free. Like everything I mentioned just before I said the adaptogens, cost you nothing. So health doesn't have to, mean that you have to buy every single product that's under the sun. There's a lot that you can do just by making different choices. Okay, let's get into number 3. So estrogen dominance. I talked about this when I was talking about the liver, how this actually happens. Either we're not excreting it, maybe we're producing too much of it. Your ovaries are not the only place you produce estrogen, ladies. Okay, this is a fallacy as well. You produce estrogen in your ovaries, a little bit in your adrenals, which is why it's so important to take care of your adrenals and your stress response before you get into perimenopause, because when your ovaries do slow down their production, guess who needs to help you produce some of that viable estrogen? Your adrenals. Well, if we've squeezed the life out of them because we've been living these stressful lives and we were never taught how to take care of them or ourselves, when the ovaries start to go kaput, the adrenals are like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm done too. I'm exhausted. You didn't take care of me. And that's when the hot flashes become crazy. We get hot flashes when estrogen is, not when estrogen is high. It's when the estrogen has plummeted. So, that is something important. We have the insomnia during perimenopause and menopause when the estrogen has plummeted. So there was lots of questions that came in about bioidentical hormones and hormone replacement therapy. That's a whole nother topic, and we do get into it in the hormone project, but it's a really big topic. And it's important to understand too, I do not prescribe bioidenticals or hormone replacement therapy. Like, I am not a doctor. I do not do prescriptions of anything for anyone. I help you build a tribe within the Hormone Project where you are connected to various practitioners in your area, in your region, that can help you with that. And bioidenticals for some women are honestly like a saving grace. And for others, it's not the answer. It's not where you start. You have to build the foundation of your lifestyle first before we automatically jump into taking some of those hormone replacement therapies, okay? So if you're suffering from a lot of breast tenderness, the heavy periods, the migraines, the cramps, emotional mood swings, the bloating, the weight gain, the blood clots, the fibroids, and the cyst. This is definitely a case of having that excess estrogen, also known as estrogen dominance. Now, this can mean, like, are you producing too much estrogen? Possibly. Or are you producing a healthy amount of estrogen, but you have very little to no progesterone to counterbalance it? Is it excessive estrogen from different toxins, products, and plastics that you've been using? Is it coming from our fat cells? Our fat cells also produce excess estrogen. So the more weight that we're carrying on our body, the more vulnerable we are to be producing excess estrogen. So this is why it's so important, again, to be supporting the liver and the butt and the gut, to be making sure that we're moving this on out. And that's also as well too, by realigning your estrogen, will a fibroid naturally go away? So many times that happens. I'm not going to say to you, yes, 100%, but let's say 99%, like almost always. Cyst, fibroids, the heavy periods. I'm not even kidding you, ladies, within 1 to 3 cycles. Like, I've been posting and sharing from women who are in the program. Some of them are on here tonight, that they were debilitated. I mean, like, they were stuck to their home for the first few days of their period because of the pain, because of the heaviness. They were soaking super tampons and pads within 1 to 2 hours and were so nervous to leave the house because they didn't know if they were going to have an accident. Completely rebalanced within a couple of months. And that is the ability, like, our bodies, think about this. Like, there are so many cells in our system within 7 days that completely regenerate. Every cell in your entire body within 120 days has the ability to regenerate itself. That is 4 months. So think of what we can actually create and do when we start to pull back on some of the irritants. And then we start to super nourish and support our body, what is actually possible. And ladies, men have a 24-hour cycle. Same one every day. It's like Groundhog Day. We have anywhere from a 23 up to like a 36, sometimes 45-day cycle with 4 different phases. There is so much room and time in one cycle to make change. And think about this, depending on the length of your cycle, if you're looking at this over the course of a year, it means that we have about 10 to maybe 12 opportunities to create this shift and this change. It doesn't take years for this to happen. It takes weeks and months for some of these changes to actually start to occur. So how do you start to do this? We talked about, stimulating your body, getting yourself moving, getting your poop moving, getting the sleep, decreasing stress, cutting down the caffeine, the coffee, and the alcohol. The alcohol is another huge one. If you're having that glass of red wine every night, or you're having more than 3 to 4, alcoholic beverages a week, you are increasing your estrogen between 30 to 50%. So this is going to work against you in every which way possible when you have those health goals, whether it's your body composition or just how your body is feeling and functioning. Start to change your body care products. Cut out the plastic. Start to use, like glass mason jars, stainless steel bottles, those types of things. And then the other thing I would say is really starting to learn and understand more about which estrogen. We produce 3 different types of estrogen. They have 3 different pathways they can move down, and then they have to be neutralized. And out of those 3 pathways, one is a prolific pathway, which means it's where things grow. One is a carcinogenic pathway, which is the cancerous pathway, which is where more than 90% of estrogen-dominant cancers are derived from. And then there is the healthy, green is for go, 2OH, get the heck on out of my body pathway. The Dutch test is what illuminates and shows which pathway your body is preferring and where are you packing up and sending your estrogen. So this is huge when we're trying to see, like, what's the area of vulnerability in your body, and why for you, after you have felt like you are doing everything right, is nothing shifting in your symptoms. It could be because you're targeting the wrong type of estrogen, you're targeting the wrong pathway, or there's that issue with the methylation and being able to excrete and move it out. It's the same thing when women have cystic acne. They have the male pattern hair loss and then male hair growth. Maybe the DHEA is high, maybe your testosterone's high. maybe they're both kind of in that borderline, but the way you're converting the testosterone is more down a 5-HT pathway, which is that very male dominant androgenic pathway. That's the pathway my hormones were going down. And so in the hormone project, I actually bring up and I show my whole Dutch testing. When I first did it, I was estrogen dominant, I was testosterone dominant, and what I was able to do within X amount of months. And that is really what helped me formulate the hormone project. The protocols you're going through the hormone project are the very ones that I created based off those experiences for myself and the women that I was working with and testing in those early years. So the Dutch test is ordered. So there's a couple different ways that you can get it. So most NDs, or I shouldn't say most, some NDs use Dutch. Your family doctor will have no idea what this test is and won't order it for you. You can actually go and order it yourself. It gets sent to your home. This is what it looks like when it comes. And you have little, where's the little, the pea strip is in here. Okay, so you get 5 of these strips that you urinate on, and then you date them and everything, and you set them out to dry, and you take them at different times throughout the day, and it's all laid throughout here for you. Full Q&A, so you know what days to take it on your menstrual cycle. If you don't cycle, what that means and when you take it for that. You send it back. It's a 14-page report of findings. Like, it is so jacked loaded with all the information about your body. And it doesn't just look at the hormones, it's looking at your adrenals and your cortisol. It's looking at your organic acids, and it's looking at your gut neurotransmitters, serotonin, norepinephrine, epinephrine. It's looking at your methylation factors and cofactors. So this is going to help to also tell you a lot about, like, why is your mood the way that it is? Like, what is actually going on? So most practitioners, they charge $500 for it to purchase it through their clinic. If you go on and order it directly from the website, it's going to be $399 US, but you won't understand the test. So then you have to go to a practitioner who then has to analyze and interpret it and then set up an appointment to explain it. In the hormone project, you get $100 off the test, so it's only $299, and your interpretation is included in the hormone project. And I record your entire report of findings. So I pull the whole test up, like how we're like this on Zoom. It's you and I looking at each other. I pull your whole test up. I walk you through every single result and explain to you exactly what everything means. I do the same thing for you with your blood work, your stool sampling, any diagnostic you get done, and then you get the recording. So you can go back, because how many of you have gone to an appointment? It's like tonight, it's information overload, which is why we record it and send it back to you. And then you don't remember anything, but it was really kick-ass information. And especially when it's about your body. So you go to an appointment, you hear about the things that are going on in your system, and as you drive away, you start to forget everything you learned about that was going on in your body. I record it all, and you get the recording, and you have that recording for always. Yes, so you can go to that link that Vanessa posted, and you can go and secure one of your spots. There's only 4 spots left. I only take 25 women in the program because everybody gets 2 private consultations, which is 50 consultations, a lot of hormones. So it's not like the Simplicity Project where there's no consults and I can, sky is the limit. It doesn't work that way for this program. Okay, so let's talk about thyroid. So thyroid hormones are so valuable when we are looking at the full picture of our body. And unfortunately, we don't get tested beyond TSH. So complete blood work is not very complete. When you are only looking at TSH for the thyroid, you're not actually looking at your thyroid. The TSH level, that thyroid stimulating hormone, is not produced by your thyroid. It is produced by your pituitary gland in your brain, which then signals to your thyroid to actually produce your thyroid hormones, which is free T4, that then converts into free T3. So when we're talking about looking at the actual complete panel, a complete panel for thyroid is TSH, free T4, free T3, reverse T3, and the 2 antibodies that are specific to your thyroid. Okay, so there's 6, at bare minimum 5, because oftentimes, like, doctors will tell you that they can't even test for reverse T3, and they 100% actually can. And you can offer to pay out of pocket for these tests as well too. If they say that they won't cover it, you can pay out of pocket. And in the Hormone Project, we give you a whole list of all of the blood work to request, and we actually give you sample scripts so that you're prepared and know how to go in and sound educated about asking for these. So the levels for TSH. I want to touch on that. And this is answering a lot of these questions that were submitted. So get a paper copy of your results. That's step number one. TSH, the medical lab range. Now, a lot of medical labs are different, but the average that they are looking for is 0.34 to 4. Okay, now that is better than what it used to be. It used to be like 5.7 was the upper limit. What we truly want to see is that your TSH is between 1 and 1.8. And the reason being is that as your TSH starts to creep up to 2, 2 is starting to tell us that the thyroid, like that signal is a bit suboptimal. It's getting a bit sluggish. The higher the TSH level is, it actually means things are getting slower, okay? The lower the number is, it actually means things are getting overactive. So if it was the opposite end of the spectrum, and I see levels that are like 0.9, 0.8, 0.3, 0.2, that is like, whoa, your system is moving towards hyperactive thyroid. Now, you can't only look at TSH as that measurement. It's just part of the picture. For the free T4, standard medical labs on average, their range is 9 to 19. Ideally, you want to be somewhere between 13 and 16. So your thyroid, those hormones that it's producing, about 80% of what it produces is free T4. Now that's great, but it has to convert it into the active metabolic form, which is T3. Every cell in your entire body has a receptor site for the thyroid hormone. Like, you can't live without your thyroid. That's how important this gland actually is. And the fact that we're not more educated around this, it just baffles me. It's going to keep me in business for a really long time until I have so many of you educated that everybody is getting the news. Then I'll have to create a new program. But your free T3, medical lab ranges typically are 3.1 to 6.2. We ideally want to see that between no lower than 3.8 to 5.6. Now, when this is, again, something where you can't just look at the results and be like, oh gosh, look at this, look at that. You have to work with somebody who can also take into account all your signs and symptoms, like, is your hair falling out? Are you cold all the time? Are you depressed? Do you have brittle nails and hair? Are you not losing weight? Are you gaining weight? Do you have difficulty having a bowel movement? Is sleep an issue for you? Those types of things. Or the other thing, do you have nodules on your thyroid? Do you have a goiter? Are you sweating all the time? Are you dropping weight? Or your eyes bulging out? There's different signs and symptoms depending on if things are slow or if things are high. And then the antibody ranges, they range depending on which antibodies you're getting measured. Typically it's going to be TPO and TGAB, and we want those to be under 20. The other one that I'll talk about is C-reactive protein, which is a blood biomarker of inflammation in your body. And that we want to be below 2. So when we're looking at the health of your thyroid, we want to have a better idea of how are you dealing with stress, what's going on in your life in that adrenal picture, and then what are the actual tests that we want to get when we're looking for thyroid. And hands down, out of any of the tests that people request from their doctors, these are ones where it's going to become contentious, and you'll need an extra little bit of coaching and potentially to go to a naturopath, to pay out of pocket, to work with somebody else and actually get that testing done. But you most definitely want to ask for a copy, okay? And then the fifth issue that people are dealing with, women in the program, is that high DHEA or testosterone or poor conversion. And this is what's causing that hair loss, the lack of sex drive, the lack of motivation, the agitation, and the acne, specifically acne that's going to be all around that jawline. So some of the ways that we can help that, something in my eyeball, is by working to decrease the stress, really watching your sugar. So having elevated insulin and unstable blood sugar levels, especially for acne, is just going to jack that sucker through the roof. Cutting out, and for any of these suggestions, cutting out the big irritants. Gluten and thyroid, not even maybe. Like, if you want to really truly heal your thyroid, you have got to cut that gluten out. That gluten is directly impacting your thyroid. And that isn't only if you have Hashimoto's, which is the autoimmune form, which studies now say more than 80 to 90% of people who have a thyroid disease actually have Hashimoto's. But because antibodies aren't being tested and people aren't being looked at properly, it is not being caught early enough. And so gluten, cow dairy, sugar, non-GMO, like artificial genetically modified soy, those types of things, they are going to wreak havoc on your body. Now, I'm not a soy hater. I actually like soy. I use soy, but I use an organic, non-GMO, fermented, water wash sprouted soy. And I'll use it sometimes in tempeh form. I'll use it sometimes edamame, sometimes tofu, and with a Juice Plus complete powder. So I'm not anti-soy. It all just depends on the person that I'm working with and the sourcing of where and how they are getting it. Now, how you can start to combat from a supplement perspective and from an, I don't want to say like a herb perspective, saw palmetto, zinc, maca, and spearmint can be very good for helping to reduce that testosterone. But again, you'll need to be looking at some of those other factors. And with the estrogen, and I don't think that I measure or that I talked about some of the nutrients, it would be things like DIM, calcium D-glucarate. This is a really big one as well too, where if you've ever had stool testing and it shows you have high levels of a certain bacteria called beta-glucuronidase, and it just means that your body has the ability to flip that estrogen switch really quickly. That calcium D-glucarate is really good for that. Indole-3 carbinol. This is what we get from our sulfurous, cruciferous vegetables and all of our greens, all of that goodness that helps to naturally detoxify the estrogen out of our body. Broccoli and broccoli seed extract, that concentrate, super beneficial. So there's a product that I teach and talk about a ton called EstroSmart. And that's something that I have had great success with. And it's not always the one that I go to, depending on the woman that I'm working with. Okay. Okay, so those are the main issues. Now I want to get into, I'm going to roll you through what the course content is, and I want to get to the Q&A period. And I have to be, we have 17 minutes, ladies, because I have to get my daughter from dance. Okay. All right. So in this is a 10-week course. So every week for 10 weeks, we go through a different area of your endocrine system and your hormones. So the first week, our kickoff is walking you through what these different protocols are going to be. So we have a liver protocol, an adrenal thyroid protocol, and a gut protocol. Each protocol, there is a meal plan, there is a supplement protocol, and a lifestyle protocol. Now, I do not fall into the philosophy that you need to follow a meal plan to a T. I think it is one of our biggest downfalls, is that we feel like we're failing because we weren't able to prep meal, whatever. It's impossible to stick to a structured meal plan and decrease the stress in your life. Like, it's just not going to happen, especially if you have a family and you have activities and things going on, you work full time. So I give you inspiration meal plans, meaning here's a sample meal plan. Some people are like, they're keeners and they follow it to a T, and that's great. But for other people, I'm going to say, create meals that look like this. If it's not exactly, it is okay, but create something that resembles this. Try to get this type of balance. If that's too overwhelming, can we start with one really solid good meal a day? And can we stick with that until that becomes your new habit? Again, it is meeting you where you are at. The specific supplements and protocols are based on being able to really help your body not only detoxify and to grab a hold of and move some of the excess hormones and chemicals out of your system, but to give you more energy, to calm your signs and symptoms down, and to start to get your body feeling safe enough to release your weight, to allow you to increase your lean muscle tissue, and to just feel good, to give you your sex drive back and, you know, clear skin and healthy hair and nails. There's a masterclass series where I have some of my colleagues come in, and this masterclass series is with Josh Gatalis, Dr. Carrie Jones, Jill Miller, Melanie Hustis, and Megan Walker. And everything, again, is recorded, so you have all of this content forever. It does not expire. I put together a 70-day exercise plan for you. You get rock solid booty, you get sleeveless strength, you get my yoga videos, you get Pilates, you get yoga tune-up videos, foam rolling, you get the whole shebang. Every day there is a hyperlinked workout for you to follow along in the comfort of your home. There are plant-based, vegetarian, and vegan options as well too that you can choose from. The meal plan is about 80% plant-based, and you learn more about why we do that when you're in the course. You get your 2 private consultations with me. as well too, and those are done via Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. And you get your Dutch test at my cost. So that is $299, and it's not a must. You don't have to do that test. There's some women in the program where once we do our initial consult and I learn more about them and I see what's going on, I'm like, you know what? I would rather you take the $300 right now and put it in your grocery cart or put it into, you know, a yoga membership. It's not a must for everyone. It's typically for those where they, again, have been checking every box off the list, and there's something that has been missed along the way, and that test can just be that thing that illuminates it. I do a private in-home event for the group that is free every single round. For those who don't live nearby, we live stream it. This is not open to the public. It is just for those of you that are in the Hormone Project, and this is like our deep dive night, where we grab a hold of something that we've been really focusing on in the program, and we go even deeper. You get a free ticket to Ignite Your Life, which happens on June 8th in Newmarket. Like, you get tangibles mailed to you this year. You get our full Hormone Project workbook. You get our private Facebook group. I have a naturopath, Dr. Laura Anderson, that's on the team who supports in that group. Plus, we do a live weekly Facebook Live on top of the weekly class. And those classes, like I said, we break it down. Like, one whole night is only on estrogen. Another whole night is only on the androgenic hormones. Another whole night only on your thyroid. Another whole night only on your adrenals. We talk about skincare, and I show you everything. So you are literally being walked through every single element of what you need to know to create that ultimate hormone balance and what you need to know moving forward. So we end up spending about 3 months together as a group. And you have those 2 consults that you book with me in that 3-month period of time. So even though it's a group, there is a lot of individualization. So there are women coming into this round who are currently trying to get pregnant, who have gone through miscarriages. Their protocol that I'm going to have them on is going to be slightly different than the woman who is going into menopause, or the woman that was pushed into early menopause because she had a radical hysterectomy, versus the woman who has extremely heavy periods. Who is on thyroid medication, who's been on antidepressants, whose weight won't budge, who's losing their hair. So that's why we have the consults, so that I can fine tune and tailor it for you so that you're getting that individualized approach. I don't have the date yet, Daniela, for the in-home event. No. So who is this for? This is for the woman who is done feeling like she's doing everything right and nothing is shifting. She's fed up and she's ready for the next level. So it's for the woman who feels like she knows a lot about a few different things, but wants to really focus in on this area of the body. And I will tell you who it's not for, because it's not for everyone. It's not for a woman who is currently on medication for Graves', Cushing's, or Addison's disease that's not yet stable. Meaning that if you are still kind of in that volatile up and down stage, like, I can't be modulating your medication, and I wouldn't be putting you on some of the protocols until things got better stability. So if you're somebody who falls in that category, maybe working on some of getting stable through these next few months, and then maybe looking at the one that's happening in July. And if you're currently pregnant, this wouldn't be for you. If you're trying to get pregnant, it's excellent. We actually have 5 Hormone Project babies that have been born. Actually, 1 is still pregnant right now. So 4 that have been born and 1 on the way, from moms who came into this program that were struggling with fertility, that had had repeated miscarriages. And it's so amazing because they share this in the group as well too. And when they get pregnant, they have a healthy full-term pregnancy, and they have those little babies. It's just the most amazing thing. And that's really the only 2 groups that the program isn't for, is for the woman who is currently pregnant, or someone who has recently been diagnosed on a lot of different medications that aren't yet stable. Otherwise, the only other thing I would say is you need to have an open mind. You have to be willing to work for yourself. You have to be the person that isn't just going to sign up for a program and then be like, okay, signed up for the program is going to do the work now. I am not your girl if that's what you're looking for. I am here to support you and cheerlead you with a gentle, loving ass kick along the way. I want you to feel your best. I want to help you be accountable to your own health. I am not here to judge you, to shame you, any of those things. All of us move at a different pace, and I am here to celebrate every little success that you have along the way. Drank more water today? OMG, that is fantastic. Said no to the cookies that were in the office at work? That is huge. Got up 10 minutes earlier, didn't snooze 3 times? That is life-changing. Like, these are the things, we look at them as being so unsexy and so small and insignificant that it doesn't matter. And I am here to tell you that it all matters. Ladies, I have 9 minutes and some of these big questions to get through. So here's what I'm going to have to do for you. I am going to have to get through as many as I can, not be late to pick up my daughter from dance, and then I'm going to have to do a little Facebook Live tomorrow to get through the rest of the questions. So let me go into some of them right now. I'm a fairly healthy person with a great diet, but have been recently diagnosed with some small thyroid nodules and 2 small uterine fibroids. As far as the thyroid, I've increased iodine because my test shows that I'm low. What else can be done to help with these 2 things? What is my body doing? Well, I don't know exactly what your body is doing. I would be leery on adding in the iodine. Even though the test shows that it's low, sometimes that can be blocked or marred by not having enough selenium, magnesium, or potassium in the body. And sometimes adding in the iodine too quickly can contribute to further thyroid issues. The other thing is the fact that you also have the uterine fibroids, which would lead me to want to do some further investigation about your estrogen levels and work on helping to mitigate that and detox some of that estrogen dominance out of your body. This is from somebody, growing up, I always had a fast metabolism, could keep the weight off. After I had my daughter, I had a lot of postpartum issues, was put on antidepressants, and I just can't shake the weight no matter how much I work out. I came off the antidepressants and I thought the weight would fall off, and it did not. I am at my breaking point. I'm really sorry to hear that. So here's the problem, is that when we're on these medications for this lengthy period of time, we're not told the long-term impact of being on them, and that you have to actually put your body into a reset, healing the gut, getting the bowels back on track, looking at what was going on with that thyroid. You know, thyroid issues, postpartum, and depression after women have been pregnant and had children, there's such a huge connection. So my suggestion would be to delve a little bit deeper into what is going on a thyroid level, get that complete blood work panel done. And to take a deeper look beyond just like, don't do this. Don't make the mistake of pounding the pavement at the gym, restricting your calories, because what you'll end up having happen is you'll actually probably either stay the weight you are or put more weight on, because you're going to work against your body. And this is a big one, ladies. You're over exercising and you are under eating, and it is happening all the time. Everything you list as a symptom during your promotions for the Hormone Project is what I have been going through. Sleep is not happening. My stress is at an all-time high. My thyroid is all over the place, either way hypo or way hyper. Low iron, hair is falling out. I speak to my endocrinologist about this, but all they want to do is adjust my thyroid levels. They say it's because of high cortisol, and I just need to reduce my stress. My diet is clean. I take the proper supplements. Problem is now I'm craving sugar and alcohol, which was never the case before. I feel it's because I'm not sleeping. I almost feel hungover walking through life. I'm constantly craving salts and sweets, which I try not to give into, but it's been very difficult. I just want to get back to a balanced body. Okay, so again, I read these and they're so common. That right there, you, my dear, the Hormone Project was created for. We need to take a load off you in many different ways and help to teach you how to get back in touch with your body and how to start from that baseline. So I would really recommend that you hop on over to grab one of those spots. The importance of learning your blood work and ranges. We just talked about that for your thyroid. Why am I constipated during ovulation? Typically a little drop off in progesterone, not enough. And oftentimes if you have the opposite, where you get really loose bowels going into your cycle, Could be a little bit wee too much that's happening and those prostaglandins are elevated. Why do I get migraines the week before my period? Typically that is going to also be an issue with high estrogen and low progesterone. So it comes back to that suggestion of working at decreasing your estrogen and making sure that we are supporting healthy progesterone levels. Why are my breasts so tender and periods so heavy? Exact same reason, high estrogen. So this is a big thing. These questions right here to me is like, girls, you need to get in the program. We need to teach you how to support your liver, how to get your butt moving, how to get rid of this excess estrogen. These are all signs of inflammation. When we get that estrogen moving on out of your system, we calm down the inflammatory triggers, we calm down the cycle, the migraines, and the tender breast. Your body is going to feel lighter in so many different ways. We touched on the IUD, we touched on the gut connection. I answered the question, yes, there are definitely plant-based options. I'm still nursing, can I participate? 100% you can. I would just, there might be 1 or 2 supplements that I would not have you take because I don't want the baby to get it. But other than that, like, we aren't doing anything super crazy. And I would just make sure to be really cognizant working with you that I am hyper vigilant about what I am having you use. When and where is the live event happening? So it's Saturday, June 8th in Newmarket is Ignite Your Life. We bring over 200 of you together. Natural solutions to help with ovarian cysts and fibroids and fibrocystic breast tissue. It is all about your estrogen. Increase your fiber, that protein and fat, hydrate, get your body pooping and moving, get yourself to sleep, and change up those skincare products. I have had a thyroid panel done and was told everything was fine, but I don't feel fine. Okay, so go back to the part here where we talked about those different ranges, ask for a paper copy, sign yourself up for this program, and let's dig deeper into what is going on with your thyroid. Why are my hormones so crazy 1 year post-birth? That is longer than a 2-minute period of time that I have left before I have to hop off. That is a big one. My goodness, when we are pregnant and give birth, that is such a huge change that happens hormonally. And again, another area where there is such a lack of information for women. It is not just because you're tired and you have a new baby. That makes it all worse. Typically for women who suffer hormonally after childbirth, there was things that were going on that were maybe suppressed before you got pregnant. Pregnancy, we have this huge surge of hormones, so we typically feel fairly good. And then when we deliver our baby and we deliver our placenta, which is the house of all the hormones, we deliver all those hormones with that placenta. And it can feel like the rug has been pulled out from you. So it is about rebalancing, not just on a reproductive hormone level, super nourishing the adrenals, taking care of the thyroid, saying no to whatever is not a must, and then making sure we're getting the appropriate amount of minerals and nutrients and calories into your body to satiate your blood sugar and make sure those neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, which are your feel-good, free anti-anxiety, antidepressant hormones, are in harmony and in balance. Oh, you're so welcome, ladies. Okay, so there's another couple questions about carb and sweets cravings and candida and those things. I'm going to have to get to those tomorrow. I'll hop on and do a really quick scroll through of any of these questions that I did not get to and make sure that I answer them for you. I want to say thank you all so much for spending the last 90 minutes with me tonight. I appreciate it more than you can possibly know. I hope you took away some wisdom from this, some golden nuggets, and some inspiration to up-level your knowledge in your bodies, ladies, so that you can feel your absolute best. And for those of you that headed on over to jenpike.com/The Hormone Project and secured your spot, OMG, I can't wait to start working with you on Monday night. So take care, everyone, and feel free to share this replay with as many women in your life as possible. You 100% have my permission. Take care.